dark time, when hope was bleak, there lived a young girl whose only escape was in a legend that wanted her back. The legend speaks of the lost soul of a princess from another world who will one day be reborn. There will be signs that mark her return.
Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast That Wouldn't Die. I'm your host, Kevin. With me, as always, is Aaron.
And I promise I'm not going to talk about Schitt's Creek this time.
Don't make promises you can't keep, damn it. I've been fooled before. This week, we'll be discussing the, classic fantasy, war, drama, I don't know what it is, Pan's Labyrinth, directed by Academy Award winner Guillermo del Toro, starring many Spanish actors I'm unfamiliar with. Very sad.
We're a sophisticated crowd.
Very sophisticated. We've done Eyes Without a Face.
No Human Race.
We've done foreign films. We did Let the Right One In. We've done Japanese
Ringu. Let the Right One In. It's still one of my favorite classes. You did Wings of Desire. How would this compare to Wings of Desire?
Sweet Wings. The only thing Wings of Desire had going for it is I could do my Peter Falk impression. Hey, I'm Peter Falk. What are you doing? That was the most bizarre cameo in the world, by the way. Anyway, neither here nor there. When and where did you first encounter Pan's Labyrinth? Give us the lowdown.
I remember.
First, your 30-second synopsis. Do that first, and then you can tell us your
personal experience. Very simple. It's the little match girl meets the Spanish Civil War. Guernica. Boom. Picasso. That's all you need to know.
What is you keep saying the little match girl. Is she related to the little drummer boy? Who's the little match girl?
Oh my God. How ignorant are you, my brother? Are you unfamiliar with Hans Christian Andersen?
I visited his monument, the Little Mermaid, when I was in Copenhagen.
Were you confused by who he was at that point? Because the Little Match Girl is one of the most harrowing tales at Christmas you can tell. So I'm going to tell you the Little Match Girl, and then I'll give you my 30-second review. Little Match Girl, child in poverty, literally is out selling matches. It's Christmas Eve. Literally, She's been beaten by her father. She cannot return home until she sells the last of these matches. And feet in rags. It's, of course, Copenhagen, so it's freezing cold. And she's looking into these windows and watching people celebrate with these families with the warm fire and the feast. And she kind of goes into this fantasy. She's freezing to death, so she starts lighting the matches. And as she looks into the matches, she kind of imagines that this is her life, that she's in the warm place. And she feels such joy. She lights another match.
Uh-oh.
Christmas morning, we see the little match girl has frozen to death. I can't believe you've never heard of that.
I've heard the title.
Yeah, it's a harrowing tale at Christmas.
Well, Hans Christian, I got to tell you, all of his stories are nightmarish. We all think they're all the Disney version.
I'm Hans Christian Andersen, that's me. No.
Yeah. No. They're horrifying. Like the Little Mermaid, she dies at the end.
She dies at the end. It's not at all like Disney.
No, it's a horror
Everyone's
show.
dead. Kind of like Pan's Labyrinth.
Kind of like Pan's Labyrinth. Okay,
boom. Spanish Civil War. All right?
Yes.
I mean, basically, we meet this little girl and her mother going off to meet the new stepfather. Mom's already pregnant. Of course, he's a frickin' psychopath there to hunt down the rebels. Obviously a big fan of Franco, but
Yep.
she drifts into this fantasy where she's like the princess and she's got to perform these tasks to escape the horror that's going on around her.
So you just to jump in, you feel all the Labyrinth stuff is just in her mind.
I do.
Okay.
I do.
That's
like
fair.
That's how I relate to the little match girl. This is like
Right.
she carries a big stack of the books, and I think it's just a coping skill because now she's with this terrible man, and
Yeah, but what about the little root baby under the bed?
no one saw the root baby moving or wiggling.
But it made her healthier, didn't it?
Did it?
The mom, everything was cool until they squished the root baby.
Coincidence? I don't know.
I don't know. These are important questions. So go ahead, continue.
So that's just what I'm saying. So in the fantasy is what I'm calling it. She has to complete these tasks, and then she'll be. It's what every child goes through when they think their parents are assholes. I must have been adopted. My real parents will come and find me. And except in her world, they're this fairy king and queen. Her mother is the moon. Her father is some whatever. So Pan comes, Pan is
a fawn.
The dude with the half goat. Well,
a satyr.
A satyr. In this case, he's all goat. So
he's all goated out.
He's all goaty McGoat. It is kind of the intermediary, and she has to go through these tests. And in the end, she makes the ultimate sacrifice for her little brother.
Right. Okay. Yes. Okay. So when did you first even hear about Pan's Labyrinth?
Oh no!
I thought this was a recent movie. This movie's like 15 years old.
I totally remember. I was still married. No, this got a huge buzz when it first came out. So my ex-husband went to go see it. Everybody was buzzing about this. This wasn't like some sleeper. This was like a knockout of the park to begin with. So I didn't go because, once you have children, your whole body freaks out and everything makes you cry. You're completely out of control. Now I'm old and jaded, so I was ready to finally, because I've only heard fantastic things about this.
Right. This was kind of one of those movies that really kind of opened the door for Guillermo del Toro in the United States.
Absolutely.
Basically.
Won Best Foreign Film. I believe he was nominated for Best Picture too, but he did not win.
I'll have to go back and look.
And then because of this, of course, he did The Shape of Water, which was bullshit. I hated Shape of Water. Hated. As much as I like Pan's Labyrinth, I hate Shape of Water. Unless you like to imagine having a relationship with a tadpole with about that much personality also.
That's the thing. That's where it takes the turn, in my mind. Shape of Water was kind of interesting. It was basically the creature from the Black Lagoon. Is where it was. Very
with no
like
humanity.
They said, they found it in the Amazon. And she begins literally not like an emotional relationship, but a sexual relationship with this. What is she's like a mute? Is that what it was?
She's like a mute who spends most of her days masturbating in the bathtub. I mean, I guess it's a step up.
Right. That's basically what it is. She started. Yeah, there's long scenes of that going on. And then she shacks up with the creature from the Black Lagoon. Good time.
Who is protective of her as your dog would be, and has about that much humanity. Boom.
Well, it ends like Splash, where she jumps in the water and swims off with the creature into the ocean.
Right.
So there you go. Good time. So the creature is not Daryl Hannah, is what I'm saying.
No, they end up both becoming the creatures.
Well, she had like scars on her neck or something, which was revealed. I guess she was a gill person as well. I don't know. What are we talking about? Let's get back to...
And you could probably say it's almost the same thing. It's like it stretches the thing. Is this really happening? Because it looks like obviously she's had some traumatic events in her life, which is why she's so weird.
Yes.
I mean, it looks like she was attacked for sure. It looks like somebody has tried to cut her throat, or she tried to cut her own throat. But now,
well, they found her on the beach
right.
with scars on her neck, and she's unable to speak.
Right. So who knows what any of this means?
And she awoke with just the desire to head to her apartment and start diddling. It's basically
diddling around. So I mean, I hope she's a swamp creature, because otherwise it's just bestiality. That's my review of The Shape of Water. Bestiality with lots of masturbation.
If that sounds to be your cup of tea,
drink deep. Drink deep.
Oh.
I know people who thought it was the most beautiful thing they ever saw, and I looked at them like they were out of their fucking minds.
I didn't hate it, but the idea that you'd become, I couldn't get there in terms of like you could imagine people are sitting in the theater with tears on their face. Oh, their love was so pure. It's like, what? No,
exactly.
I couldn't get there.
Exactly.
I could not get there. It was the uncanny valley.
You may love your dog or your cat, but you don't run away with them to have
your dog.
Yeah.
Do not love your dog.
You don't get biblical. In most states, that is a crime.
Yeah, right.
Meanwhile, back in Pan's Labyrinth, a movie I actually like, but I will probably never see again because I don't like movies that make me cry at the end.
So you cried at the end?
I did. I had moisture. Heather walked in my front door, and I turned to look at her, and she's like, "What's the matter with you?"
It's Pan's Labyrinth.
It's Pan.
Well, no, I mean, okay. Well, let's just jump right in. I'd heard of the movie, but I'd never seen it, and I didn't have any context for it. I literally don't remember how I heard of it, or like, I definitely had never seen it. So, but it starts out as kind of those old fairy tale type of things, where it's like, instead of a wicked stepmother, it's the wicked stepfather.
Correct.
Who, of course, is a fascist. Because it is the Spanish Civil War.
Right.
Generalissimo Francisco Franco is still dead.
Yeah, exactly. Remember the Saturday Night Live breaking news? Franco is still dead.
Yep. That was 30 years later, by the way. So that tells you the reign of the fascists in Spain. Good times. So, yeah.
Europe
it's
does
totally
like
that
its
sort
fascists, but now we have nothing to say, since apparently so does half of America.
Half of America's down with fascism.
We can't laugh at anyone anymore.
No, we can't. It's a sad situation. So there's a crazy labyrinth that's right next to the fortress or the mansion where they're living or something. So there's this whole subplot of the anti-fascists, Antifa, if you will.
Let's call them Antifa. That's fun.
Who live out in the mountains, who are rebelling against the fascists, basically. So there's that whole subplot. There's the people who like work and live under, what is his name? He's the captain.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Captain Vidal, I think was his name.
Vidal Sassoon.
That's right. What is it? If you don't look good,
we don't look good.
Basically. And there are people, it's like I guess she's like the head maid or
Mercedes.
Nurse or something.
I remember her
Mercedes.
name. I don't know why it is that I can't seem to remember the captain's real name.
It's Captain Vidal.
Is it?
That was his name. Yes, I didn't just... What do you think I'm doing here? This is the real deal.
The moment he comes on the scene, I was like, is this evil Antonio Banderas? But then he turned his head. I was like, no, it's not.
Not Antonio Banderas. So there's people who work for him in some capacity, like the doctor, who are also sympathetic to the mountain people, who they're like secretly supplying information and help in some way in their struggle for freedom or whatever.
It seems that everyone in the household is supporting the Antifa.
They all are, basically, except for the people in uniform.
Right.
Is basically, which is a lot of people. There's a lot of people in uniform who are they're evil.
So I think
they are full-fledged evil.
Yeah. I mean, obviously this is Guillermo's take for those of us who are not involved in Spain or the Civil War. So he wants us to know that the fascists were bad people.
They were bad, in case there's any confusion about that. Well, we're going to talk about this behind the scenes, but his earliest movies were all based in the Spanish Civil War, basically, of the 40s. Anyway, so there's that whole thing going on. The daughter, Ophelia, is like, she sees fairies looking at crazy bug things, and she goes in the labyrinth and meets the creepy satyr faun creature who's monstrous.
Yeah, he's super creepy. But this child
terrifying.
is fearless. Nothing terrifies her. A giant walking stick damn thing flying up at you. She is, hello, how are you? She is fearless little girl.
Fearless little girl. The creature, the goat creature, is like 9 feet tall. Creepy face, huge horns. It's a horror show. It is a GD horror show. I'm not going to lie. Whenever, and this is why I vacillate between your opinion that all the kind of fantasy elements are in her mind, because it seems very over the top. It seems like that movie Labyrinth with David Bowie back in the 80s. You know what I mean? Those kind of, it's like you practically expected to see little puppets bouncing around.
Whoa. Let's just stop right there. I worship the ground that David Bowie walks on, but I am no fan of that Labyrinth.
That Labyrinth doesn't do it for you.
That is not doing it for me.
That's a bridge too far. Got it.
I'm telling you, Pan's Labyrinth. If there's 2 labyrinths, then you have to choose, or you will die. Pan's the way to go. Although you'll probably die at the end, though. That's probably the difference.
Well, and here's the actual Labyrinth doesn't really play that big of a role in this movie at all. She doesn't get lost. No one gets lost in it.
No.
You know what I mean?
Even the captain in the end doesn't really get lost. He gets slowed down momentarily. That's about it.
Right. Goes all the way to the center of the labyrinth and then walks right back out again. And when he's confronted by the rebels. Basically.
Right.
So you're kind of like, this is kind of that kind of fantasy thing we're talking about. Then there's this scene that seemingly comes out of nowhere, where it's like they capture 2 like villagers or whatever who were allegedly hunting rabbits in the forest, but they're convinced they're actually working with the Antifa. And
let's be straight. Let's be straight, people. This is a fairy tale, but do, in the name of all that is holy, do not show this to your children.
That was my biggest issue when I emailed this to you.
David Bowie's version.
Yes.
This is a hard R. This is a hard R.
There's no Jim Henson's Creature Workshop in this one.
I was like, oh, Jesus Christ.
It took a turn at that moment, because he takes the wine bottle and literally hits the guy in the face over and over. It has his face slowly
caves in.
Crunched.
Oh my God.
It was awful. I was like, what is happening? And it's like, who is this movie for? Because evidently, and we're going to talk about this in behind the scenes, people thought they should bring their children to this movie because it's the little girl protagonist. Yeah. There's fantasy creatures running around, allegedly. And like 10 minutes into this movie, there's this brutal scene. Brutal.
Let you know straight off, El Capitan, a sadist.
Right. Well, and then they discover, thinking they were with the Antifa, and then he digs through his bags afterwards and finds the rabbits. So they really were just hunting rabbits. And he's like,
murders them
next
both.
time.
And he's like, oh, whoop. Do a better job.
Next time, search them. Search their bags before you bring them to me next time.
And everybody is kind of staring at him, but in the end, nobody blinks.
No. Well, you think every now and then you see kind of facial expressions, but they're all in.
Yeah.
Like, there's no typically, in
they're not
going to
say anything. Yeah.
No. Well, and they're happy, contributing to the torture or chasing down people trying to escape. There's no good Nazi, if you will.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's no Oscar Schindler sneaking in, here, I'll help you.
Yeah, if you're in line for the raping, but somehow the ball-crushing face causes you to wince a little bit, you're still guilty. You're
on board for the whole thing.
Yeah, so, in for a penny, in for a pound.
Absolutely. So this is not, even though you think it's a kid's movie,
No,
it is not.
No.
So now we're talking about adults.
I mean,
sitting down watching this fantasy thing.
Let me just say that
Please.
I have often complained to anyone that will listen that my father took me to see Alien when I was 13 years old and was forever psychologically damaged.
You were tainted after that.
Can you imagine if you were like 8 years old and your parents took you, let's go see Pan's Labyrinth, it's so cute. No!
Yeah. No. Because again, central character is like a 10-year-old girl.
Oh yeah, sweet.
So you
sweet
think,
baby
how bad
Jesus.
could it be?
Wrong.
How bad could it be? Yeah. Guess again.
Guess
so that kind
again.
of sets the tone for the horrors you will witness over the course of this movie. Sweet Jesus.
That and it's all in Spanish, so you might, if you decide if you're psycho and you want to bring your kids, make sure they have a good reading level. Or are fluent in Spanish.
Exactly. I mean, the acting is dynamite. The production value is great.
It's flawless.
It is really well done. If you're cool with face bashing in next to your children's fairy tale. If you're cool with that, this is the movie for you.
And I will tell you, I don't normally take in fantasy because to me, fantasy is Conan the Barbarian and dragon bull crap.
Swords and sandals. I mean, I was heavily into Game of Thrones. But I didn't join until season 5 because I was like, this looks like bullshit. And I was wrong about that. And you were very wrong.
I was wrong about this. But most of the time, fantasy is not my genre.
It depends. Now, I will say this. You and I had an internal discussion. Does this even qualify for the kind of movies that we typically do? Because generally, it's horror or science fiction. This is definitely not science fiction. And I'd argue it's not really horror either.
Well, it's the horrors of war, maybe? I don't know. It is, what do you call it? I mean, it's fantasy. That's the only thing it's going to fit into.
Yes, it is. It's fantasy / war.
Right.
Is what it is. So because there's a lot of like horrific war images where they're just going around shooting injured people, or here's a guy who's tortured with the hands all jacked up.
Oh,
yeah, that was great.
There was some vivid stuff going on there that you're not going to shake off real quick.
No, there's a scene where Mercedes, they finally figure out that she's working with the rebels in the forest, and he's going to torture her. She cuts herself free with a knife that she always hides in her apron for some reason. Puts the knife in his mouth and slash.
Oh,
and he's got a crazy...
The Joker smile.
I'm sitting there going, again, don't bring your kids to this movie.
No.
Not a movie for your children.
And also something we learned from horror movies is finish the job.
Right. That's what I kept thinking. She stabbed him a couple of times and then walks out the door. People who haven't seen this movie have no idea what we're talking about. We're bouncing from random scene to random scene. Good Lord.
Now right. Mr. Kevin,
yes.
I got the distinct impression that you're not a big fan of this movie.
I think it's like you said. It's not something I'm going to rush to watch again. I did not hate it by any stretch of the imagination. I always look at these things under the guise of I'm a reviewer looking for things to make fun of.
Not this one. Oh my God.
There really isn't that much to make fun of. The crazy creatures that you see, I found that most of the time, most of my notes were about kids shouldn't watch this. There's the scene where she goes in to there's like the big feast table and the crazy eyeless,
the pale
eyes on the hands.
Oh my God, that was an amazing kind of creature. It looked like someone who lost a lot of weight and had eyes on their hand. And when he puts the hands up on his head so you can see the eyes,
yes,
that was a very creative, super creepy image.
Well, and it's like, the crazy faun tells Ophelia, go in there, you're going to see a great feast, but don't eat anything. Don't eat anything on penalty of death.
Yes.
Don't do it. So when she's casually just like, I'm just going to have some of these grapes, and the little fairies are telling her not to, you're like, why? Why are you eating the grapes?
Because she's a little snot. You know, you got daughters. You know you can't tell them anything, whether you're a father or a satyr.
This is true. Well, I think I read somewhere, somebody said, well, maybe they hadn't been feeding her much, or she was starving to death, so that's why she felt. They didn't seem like
they didn't ever show her starving or begging or anything. Yeah,
not at all. It seemed like she was being just a pill.
Yes.
Like, I don't care. I'm going to eat the grape. You tell me to, I'll eat them anyway. Even there's a creature over at the end of the table 2 feet away.
And you really should have put those eyes in your pocket if you didn't want the creature to follow you. I mean, what kind of balls do you have to actually walk up to that creature and then pick up the tray with the eyeballs in it? I mean, that's kind of freaky.
She should have put the grapes on the tray and see what happens.
The grapes in the hand for the eyes.
Yeah. Good luck finding me then, pal. Yeah, so she eats the grapes, and the pale creature wakes up, puts the eyeballs that are in the tray into his palms, and is now looking around, and grabs 2 of the little fairies, her little fairy friends.
Oh my God.
And bites the heads off.
Snapped it clean off. Oh.
Again, not for children. Not for children.
No,
does she feel bad?
Don't do it.
Is there a scene where I feel like, man, I guess I shouldn't have eaten those grapes? Not really.
Not so much.
Not so much.
But I love that imagery. Everything on the table was like ruby red and jewel-like. But quite frankly, all around the halls are pictures of the creature killing children. Stabbing. So
yes.
maybe she's stupid. I don't know.
That's a question. That's a question.
Maybe she can't associate that with maybe that could happen to me. So I don't know. I don't know how she snuck by this one.
I think Guillermo del Toro talked about that. This was actually supposed to be a moment of virtue for her. The fact that she was like choosing to be disobedient was a good thing. Because later in the movie, when the fawn is like, hey, I just need to stab your baby brother to open up the portal, and she says no, that was part of it, I guess.
That's
the fact that she's willing to be disobedient to her elders in these moments.
She's been disobedient from the moment they arrived.
From Jump Street.
So well, I guess when you look at it that way, I guess that's in the context of her character.
I mean, I guess.
I mean, she's taken off. She's doing everything. She's not going to call the captain her father. She's just being, a preteen, snotty little girl.
Basically. That's basically what we're supposed to think, I guess. Sweet
and
Lord.
Somehow that ends up being her strength, I guess.
I think that's what they're trying to say, even though it costs her little fairy friends to get their heads bitten off. Good times. Then there's that scene where she climbs down into the tree.
Yes.
With all the roaches crawling all over.
Giant roaches. Oh my God, the size of like hamsters crawling on you. And a big giant bullfrog that eventually vomits up the key along with an equal amount of its own weight. So she has to do these tasks. So the first one is to go into this old muddy hollow log with I guess they're giant pill bugs. Because remember they rolled up, they're like roly-polies.
I guess. I don't know. They look kind of like those European roaches. Not your
the Madagascar hissing cockroaches.
Yes, I think so, but I'm not.
But who knows?
Etymologist.
Are you not?
Yeah.
So
only on the weekends.
That was one of her tasks to retrieve a key. When she was in with the pale man where she ate the grapes, she had to retrieve a dagger. And then the third one was she
bring me your baby.
Sacrificed the baby. We just need a little bit of blood, like all of it.
I mean, and that's the other thing. It's like the moment they say, "Hey, we need a little bit of blood of the innocent to get this to," that's a big red flag.
Of course,
that's a big red flag when you're like, "Oh, I thought this was going to take me to my beautiful underworld where my elf father and mother are waiting for me."
And she's an innocent, so if just take 2 drops from her finger.
Well, and that's okay. So the big spoiler alert is the evil captain follows her after she's ran off with the baby, which is actually his child.
Right.
follows her into the labyrinth.
Meanwhile,
Yeah.
the Antifa has attacked and is
Right.
burning down the fort and everything, but this is his legacy.
This is his legacy. So he's chasing her down, takes the baby from her, and just shoots her.
Oh.
Pow. Guns down the 11-year-old, 10-year-old girl, who drops down, and her blood falls into the, I don't know, down into the
hole,
ground, into the hole in the ground,
right.
Which is like, you sacrificed yourself for your. I don't think that was her plan, but they're saying like, like this was all part of her strategy to be like, I will sacrifice myself for my baby brother, and that's the final test.
That was the final test that she refuses, even if it means she'll die immortal. She's not going to sacrifice the little newborn baby. And as she's dying, she's reunited with her fantasy father and her fantasy mother and the court and everything.
Come sit on the third throne in our amazing throne room. Then it cuts back to she's just dead on the ground.
Oh my God, that was so horrible.
Yeah, good times. Again, not for children.
Not for children.
Actually,
the movie starts with her dead body, and the blood runs back into her, and then you meet her on the road.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, I truly, as a parent, any movie that has children being hurt in some way, you drop down a couple rungs on the ladder for me, as far as I'm concerned. I find it exploitative, truly.
Like Sophie's Choice? Was that exploitative?
That was hilarious. That I'm okay with Sophie's. Of course, that is the worst.
Sophie's Choice is the worst.
That's the worst. It's emotionally manipulative. It truly is. It's like
Isn't every movie emotionally manipulative?
Well, in my mind, that should be kind of off limits on some level, because I do feel like it's easy. It's like a jump scare in a horror movie. You know what I mean? It's like, if I want you to cry, I'll just kill a child that you've grown to love and appreciate over the course of the movie.
Well, see, that's why I didn't see it in 2006, because I would have been more like the way you are right now.
Well, did you know that going into this, though? I didn't know that.
I did know that. I did know she dies. I remember Don told me.
Spoiler alert! Sweet Lord.
Yeah. Well, because my plan was I was never going to see it. And he came back and said it was amazing, but I would have been super triggered, and I would have cried for 3 days.
Good Lord. Okay, so any other highlights you want to talk about before we move on?
I gotta tell you, this movie is solid, and the reason I would not see it again would be because of the violence. It's just very upsetting, but that doesn't take away from the fact that this is, like I said, this is a solid movie. This is a really good movie. I
mean, critically acclaimed. By no stretch of the imagination.
And that doesn't always mean anything. There's plenty of critically acclaimed movies where I'm like, whatever.
Well, no, I mean, I definitely could see that this was a well-crafted film. It's just not something that I enjoyed all that much.
I hear your words, my brother.
Do you hear my words, for sure?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't hate it. Didn't go like, it wasn't... We've watched worse. No question.
For sure. Maybe not... Have we watched anything as violent? Is anything as sadistic as this?
Well, here's the thing. People who haven't seen this movie think this is like Zombie or something. It's not like an unrelenting onslaught of violence. It's just these moments that pop up that you're like, ah!
And the violence is not in the fantasy part. The violence is in the real world part.
In the real world part, yeah. It all deals with the crazy Capitan Vidal.
Yeah. Her stepfather.
Her new stepfather. So, good times. Shall we go to behind the scenes?
Let's rock it, brother.
Guillermo del Toro had been working on this for years and years and years. Like it started like as a nightmare he used to have as a child, with the fawn kind of stepping out from behind the door of his room, kind of thing.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, but he had literally, he compiled books full of notes and drawings over like years that he'd been getting ready for this movie. And he took a cab and actually left all the notes and drawings in the cab. And he was, totally despairing that he would never be able to make this movie. The cab driver tracked him down and brought him back all of his stuff. So that saved the day.
His parents read to him from The Little Match Girl?
I think they read to him every night and showed him Alien
when he was 5.
Yep. Hollywood producers offered to double the budget if he would film it in English, and he refused.
Well,
he said no.
Whatever.
He didn't want to compromise any part of his vision, so much so that the subtitles were written by him. Because he says that he's made movies where Americans do the subtitles and they mess it up.
Yeah, I agree.
They mess it up.
I agree. I watched 90 Day Fiancé, and everyone always complains about the translations.
All right. Oh, I'm sure. Stephen King attended a screening of the film and sat next to Del Toro. And Del Toro kind of watched his reactions, and King squirmed when the Pale Man was chasing Ophelia.
Oh, the Pale Man is beyond creepy. It was so creepy.
Right. And he said...
With the black fingertips.
Yes, long, crazy... yes. And he said that was basically the same thing in his mind as winning the Oscar a few years later. Being able to get a reaction like that from Stephen King.
I won't argue that.
Right, absolutely. Del Toro gave up his entire salary, including back-end points, to see this film become realized.
Oh, poor baby.
And he to this day, he believes it was worth it.
All right. Well, he did get the Shape of Water out of it.
He did, absolutely. Fawn's legs were not computer generated.
Oh, he had to walk on stilts?
Yeah, the actor had to do it. Now, the actor who played both the Pale Man and the Fawn was an American actor named Doug Jones, who's been in all of Guillermo del Toro's movies and had been in other things.
And he's the Silver Surfer.
Right. He's a gifted body actor, and we'll talk about that a little bit later.
And he was Zombie Billy in Hocus Pocus.
He's in a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
He was the creature from Shape of Water.
Yeah.
Strangely enough, the creature in the Shape of Water is designed and looks exactly like the fish man in those Hellboy movies. They're like exactly the same. The first one and the second one were both directed by Guillermo del Toro.
I did not know that.
Yep.
Did I know? Because I liked the first Hellboy.
Yeah,
I love.
They look exactly the same.
Okay.
They look exactly the same. And it's both played by Doug Jones.
All right.
Although the first movie was voiced by David Hyde Pierce from Frasier for some reason.
For some reason. Right.
Doug Jones does not speak Spanish. And he had to memorize all of his lines in Spanish and memorize all the lines of the other actors in Spanish just so he'd know what his cues were.
Oh, Lord, yeah.
And then in the end, they dubbed him with a different Spanish actor.
Oh, my God. So, after all that, isn't that classic?
Well, but he still had to have the mouths, his mouth saying the things, to dub him. Otherwise, it'd be crazy town. I think that might be. Guillermo del Toro is not Spanish, by the way.
What?
No, he's Mexican. So there you go.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, so much so that the Spanish producers in Spain, obviously,
right?
When he went to hire the guy who played Vidal, his name is Sergi Lopez.
Yeah,
he is like a famous comedic actor in Spain.
Oh my God! And not after this, people are running crying.
The Spanish producers were like, I don't think it's going to work. You can't have this hilarious, funny guy playing this serious, violent, evil role. Guillermo del Toro said, he's good to me. And he was.
He was.
He's really good.
He was chilling. He was chilling.
He was literally like Ray Fiennes in Schindler's List, to bring it back to all that stuff, that horror.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
I think that's about it. Anything else? It received 22 minutes of applause at the Cannes Film Festival. There you go.
It is amazing. It is amazing.
There's a lot of Doug Jones information here. When he's eating, when he was the pale man eating the heads off the little fairies,
Yes.
they were condoms filled with fake blood that he was working with. So he had to buy into
and rip.
Yeah. Good times. It took 5 hours for him to get into the pale man costume, and once he was in it, he had to look through the nose holes to see where he was going.
Oh yeah, the nose holes are super creepy.
Yep. Good times. I'm done with this.
Oh my God, you're so hateful.
Hateful. The cast, many talented Spanish actors, and I talked about Doug Jones was Fauno and the Pale Man.
Okay, well, let me ask you this.
Go for it.
So, what dialect are they using? Are they using the Spain Spanish, or are they using Mexican Spanish?
I believe they're using. Well, I mean, Spanish is Spanish. Now, obviously, they have certain.
Yeah,
Castilian Spanish is it's the same as Mexican Spanish. Now, there might be different slang and things like that. It's not like okay, in Spain, for people who want to know, there are actually 4 national languages. There's Castilian Spanish, which is what we know of as Spanish. You know, that's what they speak in Mexico and other Central and South America generally. There's also Catalan, which is what they speak in Barcelona, which they are similar but different.
Yeah,
similar,
because there's certain different pronunciations for certain sounds.
Oh, that is true. Castilian Spanish, they have that. They had I'm trying to remember what it was. There was like a king in Spain who had a lisp.
Barcelona.
So absolutely. So he had a lisp. So when he would say Barcelona, it was Barth, not Barce, right?
Right.
So if your king speaks that way, then you all speak that way.
Absolutely.
So you're absolutely right. There is that change. There's also 2 other languages, one of which is Basque. So there you go. I'm like a historian of Spanish languages.
I love, speaking of Basque, man, I wish I had some pickled tongue.
Basque, Basque, not Bass like Bassmaster, the fishing show. So there we go. Good times. Let's see. I think that's about it. Any other thoughts and feelings?
I say fantastic, not for children or those who are sensitive to torture and just horrificness.
Are you ready with your rating? Currently, it has a 95% certified fresh.
Oh my
Rotten
God.
Tomatoes. Audience only gave it a paltry 91%. So there you have it. Good times. What is your rating of Pan's Labyrinth? Oh, as it's known in Espanol, El Labyrinth de la Fond. De la Fond. That sounds more French, but you get the idea. I think I butchered it. Go ahead.
I'm going to give it 5 out of 5 Joker smiles.
5 out of 5 Joker smiles. Interesting. I will give it, let's say, 4 out of 7 exploding bloody condoms.
Oh my God. Like the same rating you would have given Halloween 3? Is that what I just heard?
Halloween 3 is far more entertaining.
What?
Oh!
Whoa!
Boom goes the dynamite. I fully acknowledge that there will, like, Roger Ebert gave it 4 stars out of 4. I fully acknowledge there are going to be people who are like, this is the finest movie of the year. I get it. It just didn't touch me in the right spot. You know what I'm saying? It just didn't. I couldn't get there. Much like Shape of Water, there was only so far I was willing to go.
I just think you're out of your ding-dong, diddly-doo mind. You can't discount the whole movie just because a kid dies at the end.
I can do whatever I damn well please.
I say no, sir. I remember watching E.T. and having some sophisticated high school kid go on about how Steven Spielberg is a garbage director because all he does is try to manipulate your emotions. But that is every poet, every novelist, every filmmaker. It's nothing but manipulation. So I say bullshit, sir.
As I've said before, I can very much see people enjoying this movie, appreciating this movie. It ain't for me.
It ain't for me. Ta 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 ta.
That's what I'm saying. So there you have it. Thank you very much. Go to our page on Facebook at The Podcast That Wouldn't Die. Go to our page on Twitter at TPodcastTWDie. Email us at the podcast that wouldn't die at Gmail. We are on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, etc., etc.
Are we on LinkedIn?
We are not on LinkedIn. For the professional shouties. So there you have it. Like, share, rate, subscribe, hook a brother up. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And Aaron, you're on social media.
I'm on the Insta and the Twitski, the Cult of Aaron. Join the Cult of Aaron.
So cult it up, for goodness sake.
Whoop, whoop.
So thank you very much, and be well.
Later, people. Stop being spreaders. Don't be an asshole.